Right, before we get going, introductions. Jim, perhaps you'd like to kick off.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name's Jim Abbott. I come from Astra Zeneca, and my role is effectively the process owner for category management at Astra Zeneca.
Josip.
Hello everyone, my name is Josip Stopic. I'm Chief Procurement Officer of Xellia Pharmaceuticals.
Stephane Morel.
Oh, thanks. Hi everybody, Lisa Harris. I'm a management consultant. Work for Baringa Partners as a partner and have spent many years implementing category management across a number of different clients. Good to be here.
Wonderful. Now, as ever, I'm going to, because it's early, we haven't done any exercise yet, so we're going to do some hand raising, I hope. For those who actually are delivering category management, if I were to go and grab a member of the C-suite of your business and ask them if category management was relevant to them, how many of you would confidently say that they would answer yes? Right, just put those, go on, be bold, put those hands in the air so everyone can see them. All 4 of them in the room. So there's a challenge. How are we going to make it relevant to our business? Now, look, before we get going, and Stephanie, if you mind, I'll come to you. I think we've got it. Lisa, you're holding the mic, and you've got a broader perspective, obviously looking from Baringa. But what are your observations of, what is category management from your perspective in most businesses? I mean, what does it actually mean?
A whole range of things, it seems. And I guess my experience is literally from one extreme to the other. So I've worked in organisations, global FMCG, global telco, where category management is really on the front foot, really well structured, processes in place, appropriate governance in place, so you're doing that kind of stratified approach, as in you're not doing a huge strategy every single time, so the attention is focused on the appropriate areas. Really motivated category directors, category managers, you've got the rollout right in countries. To the other extreme, and one of my current clients is a good example of that, where actually they're doing category management in name only, I would argue. They have category managers, but really they're buyers. I'm just sort of scoping the project with the client at the minute, where they said they want to combine their category managers, business partners and supplier managers into one role, which scares the life out of me, but we're not there yet. So then I was sort of kicking around what we need to do to get there, and I said, do you want us to have a look at your category management process? And she said, we don't have one. So these people have been called category managers for years in this business of mine, and it's a well-known organisation, but they don't even operate one process. So that's the other extreme, where they literally, the name category manager is used, but there's no category management happening. So it's scary.
Perfect. Just is that microphone working as well there? So we're not. Yeah, you're on. So just I feel slightly unfair coming to you after that sort of excellent. Because the temptation, where are you on the spectrum of category management in Xellia?
In Xellia, we started with, I can tell you, we started with Cirtuo before guided strategy, so long time ago. But I would not say that we are so happy how it was doing it. Not because of Cirtuo, because of us, right? So we were doing it in a way that it was like not enough time. The same people were doing operational and the business. Then we reorganized, and then we made a few categories in a good way. We use there was a 2 ways. Sometimes people would put the things in Cirtuo to the tool. Sometimes people would just use the logic, and then do it in a different way. For me, in that moment, so we're talking about before COVID, so 2018, it was more important that I get a strategy than I get it in a different way. That was all okay, but the bad thing is implementation. Right, and basically whatever we'd done and had the good ideas, implementation was partial. And the best learning is during the COVID period, right? From 2020, right? It's now 3 years together with Ukraine war, right? So I forgot it. During this period, basically, we were totally running to assure supply, to not stop production. And then you see how many things you can do, right? And then you look your strategies which you done in 2018 and 2019, and you realize, if I done it, 50% of it will be sold, right? So this is why now we are reinforcing the category strategy. I said I cannot do it alone. I talked to my management. I need to have and the guys basically here, Robert with the sourcing champions, as I need external help who can focus and prepare it.
Right.
And help my people to be trained and go to the next step. So we will now do it everything in the guided, starting from refreshment from the beginning, connected with the new procurement strategy, and connected with the strategy of the company.
Got it. And Jim, I guess final question. I mean, what does category management again mean to you at AstraZeneca?
So say at AstraZeneca, it's simply put all about how procurement add value to what it is or how AstraZeneca buy stuff. Right? And so what I mean by that is looking at things on both the demand side and the supply side in terms of what and how we optimize. It's simply put that.
Right.
Now we're relatively speaking new adopters of Cirtuo. We use guided strategy creation. The reason why we've adopted Cirtuo is because in many instances, category strategies that we had were all very, very good at explaining what it is that AstraZeneca buy and how that particular product or service or bundle add value to what AstraZeneca do. But in terms of actually explaining what it is that procurement are going to do to add value and how they're going to do it, and how it then translates into real activities whose performance can be measured, we're not so good at that, or we haven't been so good at that. So the aim of us adopting Cirtuo is for us to deliver more effective category strategies at pace to a standard that actually results in things being documented and things being done.
Documented and done. Interesting. I'm going to ask, if I may, I'll take Lisa's spectrum. Left-hand arc with buyers. You know, we're literally just buying stuff, but we call it Catman. Right-hand side, fully strategic, delivery focused. I'm just going to do like a 1 to 10, where 1 is your procurement functions are really buyers. 10, fully strategic delivery. I'm going to count up the numbers, and then I'm going to see whose hands go up when. So let's start with 1. If you were honest, your team was just doing buying. It'd be a brave move to put your hand up in this room. There we go. I admire you, that's good. 2, 3, beginning to do a little bit of 3, sir. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 3 to 8. So 3 to 8, which paints quite a good picture. So I'm now gonna sort of do a double whammy question, right? Because we touched on this keyword relevance, and relevance means different things to different people. And relevance to, if I asked a procurement leader, why is doing category management relevant? I'd get one answer. If I went to the C-suite, I suspect I'd get a different answer. If I went to one of the stakeholders, I might get a different answer completely. So Stephane, if I may, I'm just going to come back to you, which is, if in that kind of picture of your journey, what do you think drives relevance? Is it doing it well? Is it the fact that everyone understands it, or is it more about the outcomes you get from it? Where would you position it?
for me, the point is two things. It's about collaboration. So are we able to do that with the business? The vast majority of the category manager are still doing that somehow isolated. Maybe with our procurement colleagues, and then they go to the stakeholder and say, hey, look the great job I've been doing for you. So surprise from the stakeholders, say, okay. So collaboration. And the second thing is, to make it relevant, we have to be customer focused. We have to talk about value. And I'm always talking about value creation, and I hate this word. I really hate value creation. We don't understand what it means. Our stakeholders don't understand what it means, and even our procurement teams don't understand what it means. So what is value creation? So I'm still a kind of old guy, and I love RACSI. So for me, value creation means RACSI. We are relevant if we are providing RACSI. I had a debate. The S for service, I would move it now more to sustainability than service, so you keep service and sustainability, whatever you want. We cannot tackle 6 or 7 axes at the same time. So category management is relevant if at the end with the business we are able to say that we are going to help on 2 or 3 axes out of those 6 or 7. This is a very hard decision to make, and I'm not sure that when you are reading, and I've been reading quite many strategies, by the way, I'm not sure we are super strong enough to say, look, I'm sorry, for good or for bad, we are going to tackle the R, we are going to tackle the Q, we are going to tackle the E, I don't care. But we select 2 or 3 of them. And for me, collaboration plus 2 or 3 axes of RACSI, it's how you start to have relevant category management. Does that make sense now?
It does. And Joseph, if I may, I'm going to come to you next, because you were quite candid that, I'll come to you. You were quite candid that if you looked at what you did in 2018-19, it wasn't actually what you wanted to do. So as you now look back at the last sort of 3 years through COVID, and as you said, that focus on actually having to deliver, because I think for most of us, the wheels fell off organisations, what does relevance mean to you? And to Stephane's point, is it about true, I'll say, creation of value, so I don't annoy Stephane, and value that your stakeholders recognise, or is it something different? I mean, because you've been through a journey on that.
I would say it's everyone should see the value. So we need to see the value, and the stakeholders.
Right.
And I'm not talking about the top management. They will easily say, "Yeah, good, we will do it, go." And then they will give the same to the middle management who needs to deliver. They will come to them, "Hey, you need to do this, and I am your boss, and we are just on the side." So they will always put us, "Oh, we cannot do it now."
Right.
And what we do for these cases, for the really critical things, we are making the business cases. So for the really very important projects, we are doing the business cases in absolutely the same way how R&D is nominating their products. Total NPV, everything, 5 years, real NPV, real business case, which is then changing the mindset. They are now looking, it's sometimes bigger than the NPV, right, of the R&D projects, right? So that was the way how we were basically make relevant for the critical things.
Got it. And in fact, later this afternoon, we're going to be looking at that whole aspect of business cases and delivery of ROI. So that's a great tee up. Jim, if I may, I'm going to sort of pin this to you now. I mean, some pretty key words there. Collaborating through a business case to deliver value. Is that what relevance is for you, or something different?
Yeah, I think relevance is all about, first of all, understanding properly what it is the business wants,
right,
and why it wants it. And then it's figuring out what the role procurement has to play in that regard to add that value.
Right.
It's really frankly as simple as that. Now the engagement of the business stakeholders, that's a difficult piece in many instances. In many instances, if you ask a stakeholder what it is that procurement does. Well, yeah, they just buy stuff, right? So quite often I would say people, the organisation does not explicitly talk about category management to stakeholders, right? It's implicitly addressed, and I think the skill is being able to, talk about aspects on both the demand side and the supply side, without necessarily calling it category management, but being able to address all those aspects in a way that procurement can add value. The challenge sometimes that we have is the kind of gravitational pull that there is towards delivering financial savings.
Right.
So, we have an overall value proposition as procurement, if you like, in AstraZeneca, that is based on 4 pillars. One is generate financial value. Another is how we, optimize supplier collaboration. Another is how we achieve, on a more medium to long-term basis, a more sustainable business. But last but by no means least is all about, enabling business centricity, because it's that aspect that is actually fundamental, right, to be a business-centric procurement function.
Just an point, and Lisa, if I may, again, if I can call upon your broad observations across businesses. One of the challenges I think that's always hard for procurement in relevance to the business is, on the one hand, we serve a governance function. Approved suppliers, no PO, no pay, controls, the never-ending and growing list of we must comply with sustainability, blah, 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 blah. So there's that whole governance control thing. And then on the other side, there are all of the soft skills that we've just heard about that are going to allow procurement to be relevant because they understand the business. Yeah. So if you look across the businesses you work with, where is the needle pointing? Is it still on the control and the delivery and perhaps the financial control? Or is it moving to that alignment and delivery?
It really depends on sector and organisation. So
right.
I'm doing some work in the financial services sector at the minute, and there's just, because the level of regulation that seems to increase month on month, you see the procurement organisations just getting tied up in due diligence, supplier onboarding. I've got one client that at the minute has 500 questions for the supplier to answer before they onboard, which obviously drags the procurement organisation down away from the most strategic piece, which is the category management piece.
Right.
Okay, so you often have to go in and have a look at what they're doing, try and simplify the governance, try and help them to work out where they really need to focus. Some of that's through technology, some of that's through actually understanding who's doing what versus who needs to be doing what. Because, and again, in pharma as well as in financial services, the level of compliance requirements just seem to grow and grow and grow. So it's always that gravitational pull towards that area.
Right.
But so you almost need to work out operationally what you need to do as procurement. And for me, put as much of that through technology, through not potentially outsource, but through finding a home for it to allow you to do your strategic bit. And then the category management piece for me is around really understanding what your organisation wants from you. What does value mean to your organisation and its customer base? And how can you deliver that? And how can you find opportunities to shine as you do that? So one of the areas that I see all the time now is in the ESG space. Procurement can really step up and deliver to its business opportunities to hit net zero earlier through the scope 3 requirements. And that's an area where a lot of organisations are still to get their heads around it. They've set their 2030, 2040, 2050 net zero targets. They've not worked out how to get there. If the procurement function and the category managers can really think about how to bring that in through the supply chain, they start to shine as well. And then they start to be, because there's adding value and there's being seen to add value. And you can be seen to add value through the ESG requirement at the minute. But you can't do that if you're bogged down in a lot of the governance stuff, which won't stop coming at you.
Right. Well, look, we've got 3 representatives of 3 pharmaceutical companies here. So I just want to, wow. And you're behaving nicely too. I want to test that. So, Stephane, you spoke about setting a North Star. So, the direction of travel if you want to deliver great outcomes, and then being agile in the way you get to it. And I know all three of you want creativity, innovation, and delivery of value in the broadest sense. But Stephane, if I can stop you, how do you do that, set a North Star, be agile, be creative, when you're competing in a ever-growing regulatory straitjacket? How do you balance the need to comply with all the things that we've just talked about, which is creative procurement?
So I think you've been explaining it perfectly well. Compliance is from an operational point of view.
Right.
So we have to have this piece under control. We've got third-party risk management process at Novartis. It was a nightmare. We are already for the third time revising the whole process because it was more than 60 days in order to homologate the supplier to be sure that we can onboard it in our system. So to onboard it in our system, you put a few more weeks. So it was a nightmare. Third time we try to optimize that. But on the other way, right now, our business in our industries are completely changing the rules of the game. Right. We are completely changing how we are developing, how we are producing, how we are selling. Right. So what we've got today is from the business, so many projects, pilots, and they need ideas. And the key thing is from procurement, in the best case, are we at the beginning of those projects? If we are, then it's perfect. Even better, could we come with ideas?
Right.
So look, honestly, coming with ideas, we are not yet there. I think in many cases, we are somehow involved at the beginning of the project, and we can bring the rigor on those processes. No? And in some cases, we are coming still late. But I would say for us, nothing to do operations and creativity from the business, and we are having completely new suppliers. Right. The way we produce now are not the same suppliers. We have to have deals with suppliers, and we have to have micro production plants now. We can move those plants from one hospital to the other. And you say, oh my God, how do we do that? So the business says, I need a plant in a container, and we will move the plant in the container from one hospital to the other. How do we do that? And they are looking at us and say, do you have any idea? We are going to work on that. Yeah, we've got a guy, a supplier who could do that. You cannot let the business make this deal with this supplier without a procurement guy who is putting a process, who is putting the good questions, and the business says, wow, you are helping me in order to clarify the whole thing, because we need this container, and we will move this container with the plant inside, but we need your help. So I don't know if I'm answering the question.
No.
That's how I see it.
Absolutely. And Jim, what's the take on this challenge of, I suppose, being free to act flexibly in light of new business, while at the same time having to comply?
I think it's very difficult, actually, because people in procurement are increasingly being loaded up with lots of things to have to manage. And really, it boils down to then having to make some very, very frank choices and be very, very open to your stakeholders about what you can do at the moment and what you cannot do.
Right.
Because realistically, I think, at least from my perspective, unless you've got a massive army of people supporting you, you can only do as an individual 3 or 4 things very well at any given time. So you've got to have a frank conversation with your stakeholders about, okay, what are those 3 or 4 things that you can focus on, that you can make impact on sustainably, right, in order to bring about change, rather than kind of fooling yourself that you can do 10, 11 things, right, with impact, where in reality, if you do go down that path, you're probably only going to achieve 2 or 3 things and then bounce off the rest.
Right. Josip, same experience or a different perspective?
I would say it's an experience, with adding maybe one more thing. It's important that my people in procurement understand exactly the whole processes in the details. Right. So from production and R&D category, for example, which is supporting whatever is in a production and related to the R&D on the direct materials, 70% of my team is coming from production or R&D. So they were
Right.
before in production, they were before in R&D. So they were just been there, right? So and then we upgrade them to the procurement.
Right. Okay, I'm going to ask a final question, and I'm going to position it, and I'm going to be slightly naughty and reverse it, because I'm not going to ask you how to make category management relevant. I'm going to ask you the opposite. So what we've heard is that to be relevant, it's about delivering value in the broadest sense, that we have competing priorities and we have to take decisions, that it's about having people who not only follow the process but truly understand what they're trying to achieve, and that comes from collaboration. And we can now see that if we set a direction, we get to a good place. So I'm going to ask each of you, Lisa, I'm going to start with you.
Thanks.
I know. We didn't prepare this. If I was going to ask you, what is the most destructive thing to relevance? If there was one thing a procurement team did to make it irrelevant to the business, what is it?
Sit back and accept being involved at stage 5 of a 6-stage process where you absolutely can't add any value, and so that you keep proving to the organisation that you're just the police spoiling their fun.
Police spoiling their fun. Got it. Stephane.
Savings target.
Savings targets. Okay.
We know that it's driving absolutely, in many cases, a totally wrong approach.
Wonderful.
So for me, savings are the consequences of a good job done, but not the primary objective to reach.
So let's build the picture. We can destroy relevance by being fun police, by setting savings targets above all else. Josip, how could you what would make procurement the most irrelevant in your view?
Maybe not focusing enough.
Focusing. Okay, not focusing. Thank you. And Jim?
Not engaging, not listening.
Okay. Of course you can.
Yeah, just seeing procurement, the whole triangle of procurement, including kind of the procurement operations piece right down to the P2P piece. There's a huge amount out there tech-wise that can help free you guys up from getting involved in the operational piece. So to turn it round, what would you do to not be relevant? It's about not investing in the technology, not understanding what's out there, not understanding how you can free yourselves to do the sexy strategic stuff and stay relevant or become more relevant. So not invest in tech.
And therefore, to close, if I apply the inverting method, we're going to drive relevance by not policing process, but adapting, by adopting broad value targets, not savings, by having a focus, by listening, and by having the right tech. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. Great.